I had 4 days to tour Washington, D.C., and this is how I did it. Welcome to day 1 at the National Mall, walking into America's heart, our Washington, D.C. adventure. This was our deep dive into the western end of the National Mall, a full day of fast walking, consuming history, deep reflection, and let's be honest, learning some travel lessons the hard way. This place is Overload City. My history meter pegged more than once, and so will yours. This giant field trip has been on my bucket list for a long time, and we were determined to soak in as much of the city's story as possible, from the solemn beauty of the war memorials to standing where a who's who of American historical figures have stood. It really felt like reaching deep inside to America's heart. We covered over 5 miles. Well, that's my best guess, on foot. Note to future self, never break in brand new flip-flops on a walking tour. But the stunning sights and moving stories made every step worth it. Day 1 was all about monuments, memorials, and a few surprises, including an all-day closure at a few places, including at the Washington Monument. And I came up with some clever workarounds that I'll share along the way. Whether you're planning your own DC itinerary or just want a front row seat to this incredible city from your armchair or driver's seat in that 18-wheeler, I hope this video gives all of you inspiration and some practical travel tips. So grab a coffee or maybe a virtual Polish dog piled with onions and relish, and come along as I guide you through each stop with rewarding stories, old and new photos, and moments that really stood out as you travel across America with me. I had compiled a to-do list, and believe me, I checked it more than twice. Organization and planning can make or break your trip to complex places like Washington, D.C. As we stroll around the sites, I'll be filling you in on details with loads of personal comments. I'm giving you 6 hours of wild tourist trekking in less than 1 hour. You are going to see so many sights on the western end of the National Mall in Washington, D.C. that you are going to be planning your trip there soon. Enjoy this informative, fast-paced ride. Sit back. You're not going to believe how much we can accomplish in just 1 day. We parked in an underground parking garage in a federal building just southeast of the Washington Monument at 12th Street Southwest and D Street Southwest. I was told that parking was difficult to find and very expensive. Well, we found it quickly, and it only cost $17 for the day. We did have to walk about 8 blocks to reach the ticket booth in the lodge at the Washington Monument. I had missed getting timed tickets online because they were booked over 2 weeks out. I didn't realize that we would have needed to plan so far ahead, like 30 days in advance if possible. I saw that you can maybe get same-day tickets at 8:45 in the morning. We picked our son up at Ronald Reagan National Airport that morning. Opened in 1941, the airport is a quick 5 miles from Washington, D.C. We didn't get parked into the Washington Monument ticket booth at the lodge until 11 a.m., which was not only way too late for the same-day tickets, but you know what? It didn't matter. The monument was closed that day for maintenance. I later read that it is closed 1 day during the first week of each month for routine maintenance. Really? Who could have imagined? Even though I pored over gobs of information before venturing out, I missed some things. It happens to the best of us. As we progress in this 4-day trip, I will share other workarounds that had to be accomplished. I hope my mistakes, unexpected closures, and bad weather will encourage you. I will let you in on a secret. We got same-day tickets for day 2, but you won't believe what happened when it was time to go up in the elevator to the observation deck. Let's start at the Washington Monument, where our day at the National Mall officially began. Even if it didn't quite go as planned, it was tremendous and wonderful, as you shall see. At about 555 feet, the Washington Monument was the tallest stone structure in the world when it was completed in 1884. I found that the exact measurement is supposedly 555 feet and 5 1/8 inches tall. That's pretty funny because 1/8 is a number I throw around all the time. The Washington Monument honors America's first president, General George Washington. You can spot the color change in the stone about a third of the way up, a result of construction delays. What? Construction began in 1848, but was interrupted by lack of funds and the Civil War. I didn't realize what a steep walk it was to reach the base of the monument from the lodge. The monument base rests on a deep foundation. The structure's design changed midway. The original plan included a colonnade, which was dropped in favor of a simple obelisk shape. We are going to get up to the observation deck but not today. You will want to see how that semi-debacle played out and how it was still thrilling. A pro tip here, the building is open 9 to 5 daily, unless closed for maintenance. Get your reservations for the elevator online in advance. You will be glad you did, for the observation deck provides unparalleled views. Restrooms are at the lodge, along with the ticket booth, gift shop, and park passport book stamps. An architect alert? This is the tallest and most commanding structure in Washington, D.C., and is seen in part from almost everywhere. And here's a creator's note. From August 17, 2016 to September 19, 2019, the observation deck of the Washington Monument was closed. During that 3-year period, the Park Service completed elevator upgrades and installed a new permanent security screening facility. Next, we spied the Jefferson Pier Marker, Jefferson Stone, or the Jefferson Pier Stone. You know me and geographic landmarks. I had to touch this one. This small stone once marked Thomas Jefferson's intended prime meridian for the U.S. Though never adopted, it remains a fascinating footnote in early American geography. This stone marks the Jefferson Pier, intended as a prime meridian line proposed by Thomas Jefferson, aligning with the White House and the Capitol. The original marker was placed in 1804, replacing an earlier wooden post. But over time it was lost or displaced, and the current stone was erected in 1889 above the recovered original. Interestingly, the inscription once included being the center point of the District of Columbia, but that line has been chiseled away. The United States eventually adopted the Greenwich Meridian in 1912. So the Jefferson Pier was never officially used as a national prime meridian. Geographer alert, it does mark the second prime meridian of the United States, even though it was never officially recognized either by presidential proclamation or by a resolution or act of Congress. Pro tip, this is literally on the lawn of the northwestern walk path away from the Washington Monument. Most folks passing by aren't giving it an honest nod. Next, let's head to the Ellipse, the site of the National Christmas Tree, the transcontinental Lincoln Highway marker, and surrounding grounds of the White House. I will be jumping ahead a few times as I present things we found and learned at the White House Visitor Center as it applies to what I am presenting right now. The Ellipse at President's Park is a wide open park just south of the White House. The day of our visit, it was filled with tourists, geese, and goose poop. Watch your step, as you will be taken aback by the southern view of the White House. The Ellipse is part of President's Park, which is a larger historic reserve area, including the White House Grounds and Lafayette Park. The Ellipse is home to seasonal events like the National Christmas Tree lighting and, historically, has served as a military drill field. This has been a place of free speech, one of the basic foundations of American liberty. President Calvin Coolidge started a holiday tradition in 1923 by hosting the first lighting of the National Christmas Tree. Since then, the tree lighting ceremony has undergone many changes, sometimes using special effects. There wasn't a tree there, but the information said a more permanent National Christmas Tree was planted on the Ellipse in 1973. I wonder what happened to it. Front and center, the transcontinental Lincoln Highway marker drew my attention. People were leaning on it, so I had to wait to take photos for you and be able to read what the marker had etched on it. Why do people do this? It drives me bonkers. The zero milestone located in the Ellipse was also erected in 1923. It was intended to serve as a reference point from which road distances are measured in the United States. This well-placed marker commemorates the start of the Lincoln Highway, the first coast-to-coast highway in the United States, stretching from Washington, D.C. to San Francisco. Geographer alert, the Lincoln Highway marker, the starting point for the first U.S. transcontinental highway, is part of the city's rich roadway history, connecting the city to a grand national vision of cross-country travel. That's a check mark for me. Another geographic landmark. Yay! Then there is the White House, the home of the President, First Lady, and family. President Donald J. Trump and his wife Melania are the residents and are busy making upgrades, updates, and much-needed maintenance to this home. The White House was built between 1792 and 1800. James Hoban was the original architect. I had never heard of Hoban, but we found this at the White House Visitor Center. It was a desk made of mahogany from wood that was left over from the original White House. It's James Hoban's desk. The original White House was burned in 1814 during the War of 1812 and later rebuilt. Many of us learned the song about Old Hickory in 1814, a battle in the War of 1812. To enter the White House, you will need to go go through an elected official such as your U.S. congressman. Unless you plan well ahead and get all the connections and clearances, you will not be getting inside. You will have to settle as we did with getting to the guarded fence line on either side and going to the White House Visitor Center to the east at East Street Northwest and 15th Street Northwest. The south lawn of the White House is used for Marine One landings and major public events. It offers a rare glimpse into the more private side of the presidency. There is a strong security presence at the National Mall and especially surrounding the White House. The White House fence posts are topped by urn-like finials. The earliest existing fence sections are located along Pennsylvania Avenue and date from circa 1818. I caught some photos of the fencing, but not sure if I caught any of this style. Tell me in the comments if I did. The parklands around the White House, known as President's Park, is the oldest federal reservation in the United States, and its landscape reflects design input from Pierre Lafayette, Andrew Jackson Downing, and the Olmsted brothers. I have discussed landscape architect Frederick Law Olmsted in other videos. Lafayette deserves a video of his own. From the main rail station which hails his name to his grave at the highest point at Arlington National Cemetery, overlooking the city he designed. I dare say little is known about this D.C. icon. In 1791, Pierre Charles Lafayette designed a new capital city along the Potomac River. As the capital slowly grew during the 19th century, a series of proposals refined Lafatte's original design while retaining his vision of the city as a symbol of governmental power. As we walked eastward toward 15th Street, we found the massive Department of Treasury building that is placed basically blocking the eastern side of the White House. Completed in 1869, this is the third oldest building in Washington. It once stored gold and printed early currency during the Civil War. A statue of William Tecumseh Sherman is front and center on the grounds. The General William Tecumseh Sherman Monument is an equestrian statue of American Civil War Major General William Tecumseh Sherman. It is located in what is called Sherman Plaza, which is part of President's Park. The selection of an artist in 1896 to design the monument was highly controversial. The Sherman statue was unveiled in 1903. Oh look, a quick view of the U.S. Capitol straight down Pennsylvania Avenue. The Pennsylvania Avenue National Historic Site binds this famous section of the avenue, which extends from the White House to the U.S. Capitol. We walked up a block or so on the west side of 15th Street, then crossed over to drop down to get to the White House Visitor Center. A path can only go so straight when trying to see everything. A little across the street, backtracking was in order at this point. We saw plenty on the way just in these few blocks. This is also part of the path of the Civil War to Civil Rights Downtown Heritage Trail. As we walked, I was making mental notes of things for our next trip to this epicenter of history. This sign indicates the inaugural parades from Jefferson to Reagan. How cool is that? See the old Ebbett Grill in the background? That's where we will be having dinner tomorrow evening. There's so much signage. Your brain will be totally overloaded if you read everything. Well, at least mine was. Walking on the sidewalk, we saw these beautiful medallion-style markers. It is the Extra Mile Points of Light Volunteer Pathway. I learned that this is a newer installation celebrating volunteerism and honoring individuals who devoted lives to public service and volunteering. Honorees include Edgar Allan, the founder of Easter Seals, and Paul Harris, the founder of Rotary International. This unique path honors 34 Americans whose lives of service helped shape the nation. The Extra Mile Points of Light Volunteer Pathway is along the Hotel Washington sidewalk entrance. It's a mile-long pathway of bronze medallions on 15th Street. The architectural masterpiece known simply as the Hotel Washington is a longtime D.C. institution. This independent hotel has hosted presidents, celebrities, and journalists since April of 1918. When world leaders and staff visit the president, they will stay in this nearby historic hotel. There is an observation deck bar. As we continued south to the White House Visitor Center, we found this war memorial and statue. History alert, I'm serious. This place is Overload City. The National World War I Memorial is a planned memorial commemorating the service rendered by members of the United States Armed Forces in World War I. It is located at 14th Street and Pennsylvania Avenue Northwest. The park, which has existed since 1981, also contains the John J. Pershing General of the Army's commemorative work. Dedicated in 2021, the World War I Memorial and John Pershing statue pays tribute to 4.7 million Americans who served in World War I. General Pershing commanded the American Expeditionary Forces in Europe. One could spend almost an hour reading the absolutely beautifully designed maps and information carved in stone at this mindful memorial. Not only did many Americans serve in World War I, but many soldiers never returned to their families. Another note, we only saw a few homeless people during our 4 days in the city. 2 on the streets right here and 2 on the rail on subsequent days. I've already given you a sneak peek of incredible items we found in the White House Visitor Center. But now we have reached the Visitor Center and it's time to talk about it in more detail. Its hours are 7:30 a.m. to 4 p.m. It is found on the first floor of the Herbert C. Hoover Building. This National Park-operated Visitor Center provides exhibits on the architecture, artifacts, ceremonies, presidents' lives, and has restrooms and a gift shop. You will need to pass through security screening to enter the premises. After going through screening, we saw the sign that read that the gift shop was closed for the day. Do we see a pattern forming here? Another place that we will have to return to on another day, but I do want to show you around. First things first, I had to get the park passport stamps. The National Park Service staff was welcoming and friendly. Architect alert. At the counter, you can rub a piece of the exterior from the south side of the White House that literally fell off in 1981. They claim there are burn marks from when the White House burned 2 centuries ago. I just wanted to show you some of the highlights and tell you a few of the many things I learned in this museum. For example, President Franklin Roosevelt expanded the West Wing significantly and moved the Oval Office to its present location next to the Rose Garden. Roosevelt's desk is on display here and is the place where he addressed and informed the nation about the daunting problems of the Great Depression and World War II. I thought this quote was humorous. You have no idea how depressing and fatiguing it is to live in the same house where you work. President Chester A. Arthur, 1881 to 1885. Hey, Prez, I live and work in the same place. The original White House flagpole finial is placed in a prominent spot in this museum. The original crimson gilded beechwood armchair was ordered for the Oval Room by James Monroe in 1818, with a whole flock of other pieces of furniture. I found it super eye-catching, maybe because I like red. The museum is filled with charming stories of the families that have called the White House home while serving in our land's highest office. It was with honor and privilege that I saw these historic items, and I am so thankful that they are being preserved and on display for us to see. Even the part about some of these leaders' favorite foods was fun. We all know about Reagan and his jelly beans. We have visited the Jelly Belly factory in California. That was a fun tour. The kitchen items on display personalized the presidents and the first ladies in a very special way to me. Many of the artifacts are simply exquisite, and some are simply practical, and some are like, wow, I never considered that. Here is a presidential seal used by Abraham Lincoln. And this is a letter opener used by William McKinley and Theodore Roosevelt. And this typewriter was used by President Woodrow Wilson. We bought the annual White House Christmas ornament, but you'll have to learn how we got it on my Day 4 video because remember, the gift shop is closed. We had to get moving, and as we headed to Lafayette Park and St. John's Church, we passed these signs and places. The oldest savings institution in the city, the American Bar Association, the United States Court of Appeals for the Federal Circuit, the Dolly Madison House. She lived there after her husband, James Madison, died. I do want to say that the markers strategically placed are very helpful for navigating the city. All too often, it can be difficult taking pictures, enjoying what you're seeing, and figuring out where you are and which direction to go, all without tripping or running into someone. At Lafayette Park, we first saw the Thaddeus Kosciuszko National Memorial. In 1776, Kosciuszko moved from his home country of Poland to North America, where he took part in the American Revolutionary War. As a colonel in the Continental Army, an accomplished military architect, he designed and oversaw the construction of state-of-the-art fortifications, including those at West Point, New York. In 1783, in recognition of his services, the Continental Congress promoted him to Brigadier General. Revolutionary aficionados will know all about this war hero. It was at this point we ended up making what would turn out to be a poor decision. But in the long run, a workaround ended up making it all the nicer. We decided to cross the street to go inside St. John's Church instead of plunging into Lafayette Park. The beautiful St. John's Church is widely known as the Church of the President. Built in 1816, this yellow Episcopal church has hosted nearly every U.S. president since James Madison. The public is welcome to go inside, but no photography is allowed. As we respectfully entered the sanctuary, a service was wrapping up, so we quickly sat in a pew. At our feet were upholstered footstools. I saw them under most of the front pews. They had the names of all the presidents embroidered on them. I really wish I could have taken a picture for you. Historian alert: there are several markers on the front of the church building, including one identifying the structure as a registered National Historic Landmark. Now let's cross the street to Lafayette Park to view the north side of the White House. Known for its role in protest and political movements, this park has been a stage for, quote, democracy, just steps from the Oval Office. Lafayette Square has had many roles over the years as a racetrack, a residential area, even a slave market, and now is a famed site for protest and public expression. Signage along the sidewalk describes and explains the construction of the White House. President George Washington worked with French engineer Pierre Lafont to select the sites for the federal buildings, including the White House and the U.S. Capitol. As we entered the park, Secret Service officers were announcing very strongly for everyone to leave the park immediately, that the park was closed. When special guests and government entourages enter or leave the White House, the park is cleared for safety. Safety note: we saw a strong police presence everywhere from a variety of jurisdictions. This certainly was a major factor in our enjoying this beautiful city. Okay, now we had another place to redo and catch at another time. This is starting to become a habit. I didn't plan for this, but workarounds are my specialty. Let me suggest that you add at least one day to your plans to visit Washington, D.C. to allow for these kinds of unexpected closures. I was able to capture this great photo of one of my favorites, Old Hickory, before we got completely out of the park. We had almost made it to the fence on the north side of the White House. I also saw this Boy Scout honorary marker. Trying to get what I can, this guy warned us and everyone within earshot that the Secret Service wasn't kidding. We had better get out of the park. Moving on, I found the famous Decatur House just to the west of Lafayette Park, one of the oldest homes in D.C. This house once belonged to naval hero Stephen Decatur and is one of the few surviving urban slave quarters. When President John F. Kennedy took office in 1961, the historic residences surrounding Lafayette Square were facing near certain demolition for new office buildings. It was through the vision and dedicated efforts of First Lady Jacqueline Kennedy that the historic character of Lafayette Square was preserved, while allowing for the compatible new construction. The view of the President's neighborhood from Decatur House is dedicated to her memory. This one was interesting. This house, built in 1819, was the home of Commodore Stephen Decatur, who died here March 22nd, 1820, from wounds received in a duel with Commodore Barron. Among other distinguished men who lived here were Henry Clay, Martin Van Buren, Edward Livingston, George M. Dallas, Edward F. Beale, and Truxton Beale. I haven't heard of all of those, but I definitely know who Henry Clay and Martin Van Buren are. As we continued south along 17th Street Northwest on our way to the National Mall proper, we saw these Texas-sized cowboy boots in front of the Renwick Gallery. This is a branch of the Smithsonian American Art Museum that celebrates craft and design in a stunning 19th century building. No time to go inside. This isn't on my to-do list. The Blair House is down this way, but we couldn't get to it. The street is almost completely blocked off because it leads to the west side of the White House. Oh well. The next place we passed was the Eisenhower Executive Office Building. This well-known structure once housed the Departments of War, Navy, and State. Today, it's part of the White House campus. We now have a Department of War again, remember? This Victorian giant is an architect alert. I'm not sure what this is all about. Empty ladies' dress shoes and a busted bag of I'm not sure what. Returning to the western side of the Ellipse, we've spotted the beautiful 1st Division Memorial located in President's Park. The monument commemorates those who died while serving in the 1st Infantry Division of the U.S. Army of World War I and subsequent wars. So many buildings, so little time. We have to stay the course. We were starved. We were on the west side of the President's Park in the Ellipse, and there were a number of food trucks. We decided on spicy Polish dogs loaded with relish and onions with really good French fries and bottled water. We found a park bench and gobbled down lunch. We were aiming for the World War II memorial next. But of course, there were things all around that grabbed my attention. We were making good time, but all this fast walking and wearing not broken in flip-flops was becoming a more evident problem. At the northeast corner of 17th Street Northwest and Constitution Avenue was one of the two Bullfinch Gate houses. This is a cutie. Can you call a tiny historical building a cutie? Well, I am. Bulfinch Gatehouse, erected about 1828 under direction of Charles Bulfinch, architect of the Capitol. This gatehouse stood until 1874 with another at the west entrance to the Capitol grounds. The U.S. Capitol gatehouses and gateposts were designed around 1827. Two of them are listed in the National Register of Historic Places. Are you having a good time so far? Have you refilled your coffee? Have you subscribed? Have you liked this video yet? I know it's a long one, but there's so much and I want to share this. My day one and your day one. I did it, you can too. As I looked across Constitution Avenue, I spotted the lockkeeper's house. Not a lock like a combination lock, but a lock like for a canal. This was formerly the eastern terminal of the Chesapeake and Ohio Canal, erected about 1835. This restored stone cottage was once the home to the lockkeeper, who managed boat traffic along the Washington City Canal. The lockkeeper's house has had many lives and witnessed almost all of American history. When it was built in 1837, it was a home for the lockkeeper's family, but that was one of its shortest lives. Over the next 175 years, it served as a comfort station. That means public restroom, a holding cell, a police station, and a tool shed. Today, it is a visitor experience, welcoming you to the National Mall. The door was locked on the lockkeeper's house, and the sign read open Thursday through Sunday. This was Monday. You've got to be kidding me. I made a mental note to return on Thursday, my catch-up day. But you won't believe the timing. Wait until you see the Day 4 video. I think you're going to crack up. Next, the Tempo buildings. I was drawn down the path to the sign talking about Tempo buildings. What was a Tempo building? Temporary World War II era government offices that became semi-permanent due to growing federal needs. This was something I had never heard of. Let me know in the comments if you ever knew about these temporary buildings ordered by President Franklin Roosevelt. This is kind of a wackadoodle to me. Instead of a peaceful pond, rows of office buildings once squatted on the land in front of you. Franklin Roosevelt ordered the temporary or the Tempo buildings constructed in 1917 when he was Assistant Secretary of the Navy. He meant for them to stand for 15 years, but instead they outlasted his presidency. The Tempos that stood here came down in 1970, but by then there were dozens of others. One Tempo still stands on 14th Street near the Tidal Basin. I'm glad they're gone. Now, that's the way to Constitution Gardens and restrooms. But not yet. Let's get to the World War II Memorial. This stunning memorial was so much larger than I expected. Located at the east end of the reflecting pool lies the World War II Memorial, honoring millions who served during World War II, the home front support, and 400,000 Americans' ultimate sacrifice. The memorial features 56 granite pillars surrounding a pool. Brass bas-relief panels tell the story of America's experience in the war, and Atlantic and Pacific arches climb toward the sky. A wall of stars reminds visitors of the price Americans paid to win the war. Totally magnificent and dramatic. The price of freedom. The Freedom Wall holds 4,048 gold stars. Each gold star represents 100 American service personnel who died or remained missing in the war. Isn't this simply compelling? This is a perfect spot to get breathtaking views and photos of the Washington Monument and the Lincoln Memorial. This is one of my I can't breathe moments. The depth of the World War II Memorial and standing here in the center of the National Mall with these iconic monuments flanking me was incredible. The weather was perfect also, I must note. But now, my feet were cut by my new flip-flop straps and really screaming. I didn't have a backup plan except to go barefoot. I did sit on the steps and place my feet in the cool water to get a little relief. Time to move on. There was so much more to see today. The Vietnam Memorial, the Lincoln Memorial, and the Jefferson Memorial, with lots of phenomenal impressions I want to share with you. A prayer for the nation. This lesser-known site offers a moment of quiet reflection within the busy National Mall. In Constitution Garden, you will find an artificial lake that hosts a memorial island with stones bearing the names and signatures of the 56 men who signed the Declaration of Independence. A fun fact, the 50 acres of the park were originally beneath the Potomac River. I was looking forward to this one because it was on a tiny island in the pond. Memorial to the 56 signers of the Declaration of Independence. Each signer is honored with an engraved granite stone, grouped by state. The 56 Signers Memorial honors those who signed the Declaration of Independence and their commitment to founding principles. The Constitution Gardens is a tranquil spot amid the monuments. These gardens were created in 1976 to celebrate America's bicentennial. Constitution Gardens was part of a movement to add more green, contemplative space rather than just monumental structures. We did take the crosswalk back across Constitution Avenue to reach the Albert Einstein Memorial. This larger-than-life bronze statue honors Einstein's legacy. The statue is in the yard of the National Academy of Sciences. The variety of architecture in the city doesn't really flow very well, in my opinion. The sterile government buildings positioned by more neoclassical structures alongside some modern contemporary structures is what you will encounter block after block. Next is the heart-wrenching Vietnam Veterans Memorial, clustered with the Women's Memorial and the Three Servicemen statue. The Vietnam Veterans Memorial was unveiled in 1982. Maya Lin designed this black granite wall. The long wall is inscribed with more than 58,000 names of the U.S. servicemen who died or went missing during the Vietnam War, or Vietnam conflict as some call it. There is a ledger of names if you would like to find the location of the name of a friend or loved one etched on the wall. If you knew anyone that was forever changed by this war, this place should be on your bucket list. Maya Lin designed a simple yet elegant and powerful memorial. Close by, you'll find the Vietnam Women's Memorial, honoring the women who served many different roles in the Vietnam War, and Frederick Hart's statue of the Three Servicemen, honoring those who fought and returned from the war. The Vietnam Women's Memorial was dedicated in 1993 and honors the nearly 11,000 women, especially nurses, who served during the Vietnam War, spotlighting their often overlooked contributions. The Three Servicemen statue is a realistic bronze trio standing facing the Vietnam Memorial Wall, representing unity among U.S. troops, and it was placed there in 1984. The reflecting pool offers a dramatic view, especially of the Washington Monument in the background, and serves as a visual and symbolic axis between the major memorials. The reflecting pool stretches over 2,000 feet. This iconic pool mirrors the Lincoln and Washington monuments and has been the backdrop to countless historic events. Now, one of the most familiar monuments in all of Washington, D.C., the Lincoln Memorial. It is open 24 hours a day and is found on the west side of the mall on the Potomac River. The Lincoln Memorial looks out on the iconic reflecting pool. It is a tribute to America's 16th president. The I Have a Dream marker was placed in 2003 on the 40th anniversary of MLK's speech, marking the approximate spot where Dr. King delivered his iconic address. Inspired by the Parthenon, this 1922 memorial houses a 19-foot-tall statue of Abraham Lincoln and the inscriptions of two of his most famous speeches. After spending a few moments inside the memorial, we walked down the ramp instead of the stairs. You can toss a coin if you like. We did. Great views and this interesting sign are along this ramp. Creators note, this ramp, although necessary, really needs to be redone and made aesthetically more pleasing to better honor this iconic architectural masterpiece. Have you ever wondered how they got that statue inside the temple? In 28 pieces. I found what I read on this sign alarming. Lionized as a man who freed the slaves and reunited the nation, Abraham Lincoln was a complex individual. From a young age, he lived with mental illness and questioned the quality of his education. Henry Bacon and Daniel Chester French aimed to capture this nuance in the statue, to make Lincoln prominent in the chamber. Bacon and French nearly doubled the size of the statue during construction. I think they needed to double it again. Their weary and tired, but kind and resolute image of Lincoln reminds us of the man behind the legacy. How did you feel when I read this to you? And did you know it was in 28 pieces? Please leave a comment below. A new Lincoln Memorial Visitor Center and Museum is to be unveiled in time for the 250th anniversary of the birth of America in 2026. Pro tip: we went to the temporary gift shop to get the passport stamp. We are heading toward the Tidal Basin with a few more great stops. As a follower of my channel, you know I prefer wearing flip-flops. This was a big mistake. In retrospect, besides choosing other footwear, I should have bought a pair of socks to protect my feet. I was so distracted by history. I had to stuff paper napkins I found at the ice cream stand counter outside of the Lincoln Memorial Visitor Center around the straps that were digging into the tops of my feet. I had to do my best to continue on. We had 2.5 more miles of this day's adventure. I had to tape my feet and wear my ugly shoes the following 3 days. I did get more passport book stamps at this location. Yay! Remember, not all stamps are at each stop. Creator's tip. In the introduction video, I mentioned that I would be sharing my little cheat tip to help gather these passport book date stamps in the best way that I found. Usually, I take my passport book with me to each visitor center, then leave it in the car while we tour the park. In the case of the National Mall, I wanted to carry as little as possible with me. I will discuss this factor of visiting Washington, D.C. in greater detail in day 2. Back to my idea. I took a sheet of sticker paper like for address labels. I could then stamp on the sticker side and then later cut the date stamps out and peel them as stickers to place in my passport books. I think I said stickers a whole lot right then. Did you get what I was trying to say? I collected over a dozen passport date stamps, and this made it much simpler than wagging around 3 passport books. What was next was the Korean War Veterans Memorial. It is so captivating. Walk the path along 19 stainless steel statues that appear as a patrol squad moving through rugged terrain. This memorial honors the 5.8 million Americans who served during the Korean War. On June 25, 1950, North Korea invaded South Korea. The United States, under United Nations command, rushed to defend South Korea. In 1953, an armistice established a demilitarized zone, known as the DMZ, near the 38th parallel. Today, South Korea remains an independent, democratic nation. The granite wall along this path contains over 2,400 images, actual faces of those who served. They represent the medics, chaplains, engineers, pilots, and other personnel who supported the troops. Artists removed identifying information and shadowed the images with Eastern light before sandblasting them into the granite. The mural looks like Korea's mountains when viewed from afar. We knew that war through our feet. We walked every inch of that country. An unnamed Korean War veteran. Dedicated in 1995, it honors those who served in the Korean War between 1950 and 1953. When reflected in the adjacent wall, the 19 stainless steel statues representing soldiers on patrol appear to be a squad of 38, a symbolic reference to the 38th parallel. This is truly an amazing memorial. In recent years, a granite wall was added listing names of the U.S. and South Korean members who died. At the end of the war, 1.5 million American veterans returned to a peacetime world in a country long reluctant to view the Korean War as something to memorialize. This memorial honors those who worked and fought under the trying circumstances of the Korean War and those who gave their lives for the cause of freedom. Let's turn to a lighter note for a bit. The U.S. Park Police horse stables are home to the horses of the police that patrol the National Mall and support crowd safety during events. Often overlooked, but vital to park operations. You can see police riding horseback through the park. We will see these police in action on day 4. This location was also closed and has limited hours. I was starting to get used to this, but if all told, I was ready to trudge on. Across the path and center stage named for President Kennedy, the JFK hockey field is used by local leagues and Basin as an overflow for big events on the mall. We were needing to turn south to reach the path around the Tidal Basin, but before crossing Independence Avenue, we looked around and read the markings on the District of Columbia War Memorial. This peaceful-looking dome honors Washington, D.C. residents who served and died in World War I. This entire place is a reminder of the struggles this nation has undergone even prior to its founding. The courage and the price paid for by faceless millions are honored in this, our nation's capital. It's not a vacation, it's a lesson in courage. At the crosswalk, we entered West Potomac Park to the impressive MLK Memorial, the Tidal Basin, historic cherry trees, the FDR Memorial, and the Jefferson Memorial are our final planned stops. The day was wearing on and the clouds were getting thicker, but so much more history was to be absorbed. I think many people don't venture into this area of the National Mall, known as the Tidal Basin. A quieter part of the National Mall, this area is popular for picnics, kite flying, and walking near the water. There is a passport stamp for this park. Along the northern edge of the Tidal Basin, you will find the Martin Luther King Jr. Memorial, the first memorial on the National Mall to honor an African American. The memorial honors the legacy of Dr. King in the struggle for freedom, equality, and justice, featuring a striking likeness of Dr. King carved in a stone of hope opposite a mountain of despair. The memorial references Dr. King's I Have a Dream speech and symbolizes a victory born from disappointment. The memorial was opened in 2011. The Tidal Basin path is a scenic, winding loop that connects several major memorials, perfect for walking or biking with reflective views across the water. Most of the traffic trends onto the western side of the basin to see the significant memorials, but if you have the time, walk the entire loop trail. Before advancing along the west side of the Tidal Basin, we walked east to find the historic cherry trees on the northern side of the Tidal Basin. The Japanese lantern at the cherry trees is a notable feature of this area. The historical cherry trees have become iconic springtime symbols of friendship between the United States and Japan. I think we spotted the original two trees from the 1912 shipment. Did you know that this was the second shipment of cherry trees from Japan? When you visit D.C., learn why, and you'll also learn that these trees are known for their blooms, not their fruit. Tracking back by the MLK Memorial, we followed the path to the large Franklin Delano Roosevelt Memorial, which spans 7.5 acres along the Tidal Basin. Even though the weather was getting gloomy, we could still see the pinnacle of the National Mall piercing into the sky. I'm speaking of the Washington Monument. The memorial features sculptures of FDR, Eleanor Roosevelt, and even the Roosevelt's dog, Fala. The 4 rooms and the 4 terms highlight the challenges of the Great Depression and World War II. Informational signage and incredible statues told a different aspect of Roosevelt's life and his 4 terms as president. I'll stop the chatter and let you see this well-thought-out design memorial to our longest-serving president. I encourage visitors to go inside the visitor center there and gift shop to learn a little more about President Roosevelt, see artifacts like his wheelchair, and of course to buy a postcard. Remember, a postcard is your cheapest souvenir and a great way to keep the memory alive of your trip to any special place. Be sure to get all your National Park Passport book stamps at any location, whether a visitor center or gift shop, that you can, because not every location has every stamp. I learned this the hard way. I chased down that World War II memorial stamp. It was crazy. If you have ever wondered about President Roosevelt's bout with polio and his beloved Campobello Island, may I suggest you watch my video when we recently visited New Brunswick, Canada. The link is in the description below. We found another marker that we really wanted to see, so we had to kind of make a sidestep and head back north to see the air-mail marker. The first air-mail marker denotes where the first airplane mail route began, connecting Washington to New York, a nod to aviation's early role in connecting the country. The marker site is near where the first scheduled airmail route launched from D.C., symbolizing the dawn of air-based communication. Back on track between the Potomac River and the Tidal Basin, we found the George Mason Memorial. The funniest thing happened as we approached this memorial. I was saying to our son that I forgot exactly what role Mason played in this nation's founding, when at the next moment, he read the sign at the George Mason Memorial, headline by the statement, "Forgotten Founder." We busted out laughing. Mason advocated for a Bill of Rights and refused to sign the Constitution without one. This is a very pretty memorial and rarely visited. We have visited his home, Gunston Hall, located just south of Washington, D.C. in Virginia. Now, as the day was drawing to a close, we were pleasantly surprised to see the Jefferson Memorial. And what was even better is it wasn't very crowded, unlike the Lincoln Memorial, which was crawling with tourists. The Jefferson Memorial is in a more distant location from the main section of the National Mall. The Thomas Jefferson Memorial honors President Jefferson's contributions. He's the one that charged Lewis and Clark. He's the one commanding America's manifest destiny, and so much more. Jefferson fans will want to go to Monticello in Charlottesville, Virginia, to see his home, gardens, and grave. But back to this. Construction on this magnificent, beautiful memorial began in 1939 and was completed in 1943. This neoclassical dome honors the third U.S. president and author of the Declaration of Independence. Its design echoes Roman classical architecture inside are inscriptions from his writings. We see the Declaration of Independence and the Virginia Statute for Religious Freedom. The presence of the National Guard was definitely giving a positive feel to being there and other places across the city. After walking around the imposing statue of President Jefferson, we went to the visitor center underneath the memorial. All of this was recently completed in 2024. This is a great restroom stop. Finding restrooms isn't too difficult, but you will often find that when you need one, they are too far away. I will be mentioning where we found them throughout these videos. The National Mall park maps placed in various locations indicate the locations of restrooms also. We walked east on the Tidal Basin Loop Trail to then cross the highway, go under an overpass, and then we blocked up to 14th Street Southwest to head east along D Street Southwest to 12th Street Southwest to the Department of Homeland Security building parking garage. Probably a safe place to park. To enter the underground parking to get to our car, we had to again go through security screening. Just a reminder, take only things that are absolutely necessary on expeditions such as these. Flip-flop failure on the National Mall in Washington, D.C. Unclassic road trip. Thanks so much for following along on day one of our D.C. journey. This was just the beginning, and trust me, the next 3 days are packed with even more iconic sights, unexpected moments, and tips to help you make the most of your own visit. Or for you, my armchair travelers, I hope you're loving this.